Hello LMC students and welcome to Back Talk. This is episode 3 of the official Los Medanos College Experience videocast as of today. I'm Robert Pierce, the social media editor and campus editor for the paper, and I'm joined here today by...
I'm Anthony Martinez. I'm the photo editor here for the LMC Experience.
My name is Jesus Cano, co-sports editor here at the LMC Experience. The other one being Hugo Calderon, also the realest one in the room. How you doing?
Unfortunately, Hugo was not able to join us this week, but you still got all 3 of us.
Yes.
So I think the first thing to talk about this week is the story with Professor Haley. I'm not just saying that because I wrote it. It was literally the first story that we talked about this week.
And I think it's the most important story.
So for those of you who didn't hear about this, it ties into the Young Americans for Freedom story that we did 2 weeks ago. So they had their memorial, they had their poster, and we found that Professor Haley, who is pictured right here, he actually left a note underneath one of the posters that said, "I am an honorably discharged disabled veteran of both the U.S. Army and Air Force, and I am deeply offended by this poster. It unnecessarily stokes division." And then he had a space for his contact info, and then he had in like big letters, it said, "Do you agree?" ? And so he actually didn't get that many responses, but he said that he did talk to the Young Americans for Freedom about it, and that was really the interesting part of the story because apparently he and the Young Americans Club reached some sort of middle ground, but then when we went to go talk to Young Americans about it, they said that they didn't want to give any further comment. And apparently they said something similar to the Academic Senate.
Okay, the question I have for you, Robbie, since you're the one that wrote the story, why was he offended?
Why was Haley offended?
Yeah, so why was Haley offended?
He saw the poster, I believe a word he used was counterproductive. So he said, "We need to remember, but not at the detriment of other folks." His point was basically that he loved the memorial itself, he loved the idea of it, he just thought that having that poster show events that weren't directly connected to 9/11, he thought kind of...
Yeah.
He described it as shooting their own message in the foot. That wasn't an exact message, but he did say that he felt that doing the poster in that way might have taken away from their own cause.
Yeah. It seemed like they were doing some sort of targeting towards a certain group.
That is what some people thought.
Yeah.
Again,
that's what I think.
We have to stress, it's not like we're trying to put this club on blast, and the actual memorial was great. Everyone I've talked to loved the actual memorial.
With that.
We just haven't heard that much positive talk about the poster, which they didn't make it. It was actually made by their parent organization, which is the Young Americas Society. Okay. And, I mean, I would have loved to talk to them more about this. But
and it was approved by the LMC to put it on?
Yes, it was approved by Office of Student Life. And that was another element to this story, is that some of them didn't have stamps, so they were getting pulled down early when they weren't supposed to. They were left unstamped by complete error.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I feel like it's more LMC's fault than Young Americans for Freedom fault, because they got it from their parent company, right? Mm-hmm. It was up to LMC to approve whether or not it could be posted. And I know you said some of them were taken down as a result because some of them weren't approved. But I feel like
for the record, they were approved. They just forgot to put the stamp saying it was approved. But every instance of the poster was perfectly A-okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I never heard anything about like something not being approved, which means there was probably some hesitation behind it too. Mm-hmm. At the same time,
it's potential that a student might have not stamped them deliberately or accidentally, having forgot about it. I think another element with that is that you say that it's somewhat LMC because they approved it, but I mean, in their handbook, they're actually not allowed to disapprove a poster because of its content specifically. Okay. So it was kind of a free speech issue.
They couldn't have just recommended to make a new one? I mean, it doesn't seem...
You have to realize that Young Americans would have to go back to their parent organization, and that could be like a month-long process when it's supposed to be for 9/11. So, okay. I mean, it's such a... I think that's why people are getting really fired up about it, is because it's such a powder keg issue. Mm-hmm. Because you have religious liberty, civil rights, freedom from harm, freedom of speech. It's kind of... It's a tangled web, for sure. But, I mean, it seems to be over now. It's been quite a bit. The posters have been taken down due to time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, I hope that... I personally hope that the Young Americans isn't defined by this and that they're able to continue being a club. Mm-hmm. Like, they're able to continue being a club successfully.
No, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. I think they have a speaker visiting on the 27th, which we have Brianna, I think, covering that. Okay. Outside of Haley... Another big one on the front page still was Dale Sater did a story on the suicide hotline, in which the big focus of that story is that he actually talked to Sierra Abel, who is a member of LMCAS, and she also volunteers at the crisis text line. And so it was an interview with her, but it was also just a write-up about the suicide hotline itself and the nature of it. So we wrote all about that. You guys can read about that right now online or in paper. Going on to the perspectives page, so we had actually some really good community outreach because we had 2 guest columns and a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
And we also did our editorial this week, an editorial cartoon on the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation situation that's currently still developing. But we don't have time to talk about that one. Moving on to campus page, a big story that's developing right now is the introduction to this program called LMC Connect. So how much have you guys heard about this, LMC Connect?
Well, it's also Starfish, right?
Yeah, so Starfish is this wider program, and LMC Connect is what LMC is calling our localized version of it.
Well, I heard of it because when I signed up for EOPS here at LMC, wonderful program, by the way. I was one of the things that we weren't forced because I didn't go, but it was one of the things that we're required to sign up for. So that's the more I know about it.
Mm-hmm. So what it is, the way it's been described to me, is that it's the service that it's not going to be required for everyone to participate in it this semester, but they're strongly encouraging it. And it's a system for the professor to talk directly to the student and either give out kudos, which kudoses are these things where the professor says, hey, you're doing really good in this area, this area, and this area. But the professor can also give out red flags, which is, hey, you're falling behind really bad in this area, this area, and this area, and you kind of need to turn that around soon. So it's kind of like a wake-up call. It's a way for the student to get real and objective feedback from the professor on how they're doing.
I think it's great. This is actually one of the first few times I'm actually hearing about the process in detail. Mm-hmm. I think, well, you know, I know it's in its early stages, but I feel like it could have. I mean, it should be very better presented. But I think the idea is great because people sometimes teachers don't update grades, and if they're maybe encouraged to through maybe some sort of incentiment or because they of responsibility. I feel like it could help a lot of people out who maybe are unsure of whether they should stay in a class or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a nice program because, like we said, it's for the student, but it's also for the teacher to, like you said, kind of give them more of an incentive to talk directly to the student.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so again, that's not required for all students, all professors yet this semester, but for those that are taking advantage of the program, it's going to go live during the 6th week of the semester, which is next week. We're recording this right now on a Monday, and this is the 5th week, so next week is when that's going to go live if your class section is participating in it. Also on campus page is voting. So Nick Campbell wrote about this, and what this is that, let me check these dates. I believe it's the 24th through the 25th. Sorry, 24th through 29th. LMC is holding a voter registration drive to try and get more LMC students registered to vote if you are not already. The college is closed on the 28th, but again, that's the 24th through the 29th. And realistically, the big reason they're doing this is just because young people don't vote. Mm-hmm. It's an open secret. We're a very political generation, I think vocally. Mm-hmm. We have strong opinions and we talk about them a lot, but young people just don't vote in numbers.
Right, and I think it's important that LMC is doing this because it's just part of going to college. You're supposed to develop more of a political personality, mm-hmm. and you can't really develop that if you're not a registered voter. That's the first step. Mm-hmm. That's the way I see it. And
basically, the idea is that you go out there into the quad, and they're going to set you up. They're going to walk you through the process to get you registered because it's not that hard of a process either. I went and checked yesterday to make sure I was still registered just in case I had expired or something. Because I get paranoid.
You were going to say?
Yeah. No,
but I can't vote because I am not
legal.
I am a DACA student, so I don't have the right to vote. So it's great that everybody gets to participate in it.
Well, hopefully one day. Moving on to the features page, we had a profile on Luis Zuniga. This was written by Lily Montero, and this is part of a series of profiles that we are doing for National Hispanic Heritage Month. You talked last week about the Victor Coronado profile that you wrote on the same subject. And yeah, this week's profile subject was Luis Zuniga, who is a music professor. And then have you guys had a class with him?
Zuniga, no.
Yeah.
I heard he's a great instructor. My cousin took a few classes with him. And I just know that he knows exactly what he's doing. You know?
I had honors music history with him, and I just thought he was hilarious.
Energetic guy, huh?
Yeah,
That's what I hear too. Very like my cousin called it hyperactive.
Yeah, I think that might be kind of appropriate.
Yeah, because in high school I played sousaphone, tuba, and I've been kind of tempted to go back to playing music because of him. Because it looks like his class is fun. It looks like you're not just there to read sheet music and produce the audience there. It looks like it's going to be like an overall really fun experience. And so yeah, it was really interesting read. I definitely recommend you guys to go check it out.
Yeah, for sure. The other big stories on features is the Books Alive event, which is going to be held on October 9th at the Brentwood campus, and they're currently accepting registrations for that. So Books Alive, you've probably heard of this concept under a different name, or you might have. It's basically where they have these living books, which is just volunteers who have interesting life stories.
Oh.
They sit them down in a room, and you walk up to the book, and then they tell you their story.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And it's set up in a room to where you can go to multiple people in a row, and it's a human library where they just tell you about their life experiences.
That's dope. Have you you've already been to that? I assume.
I haven't been to it.
Okay.
I read about this concept a couple of years ago, and I never thought it would come to LMC.
That is really interesting. Definitely something to check out.
Yeah, and so that's October 9th from 2 to 4 p.m. not the Brentwood for L1 for the Pittsburgh campus. It's going to be October 9th, 2 to 4 p.m. in room L109. For the Brentwood campus, it's going to be October 10th, 3 to 5 p.m. in room 3.
Do we have any notable people on there? Maybe, LMC president, administration?
I don't think anyone in administration is doing it, but they do have a pretty packed list so far, and I think they might still be accepting volunteers.
Okay.
Is it like just LMC faculty? It could be anybody. It could be like you or me. Or...
No, it's anyone. It's not a faculty-based thing. I don't know if any LMC faculty is doing it.
So open to the public?
It's open to the public, yeah. It's an LMC-themed event, but it's not like it's LMC people that are doing the human book part. It's just LMC readers.
Nice.
Readers. And then also the art show, which is already open. They had their opening exhibition earlier in the month. And this semester's art show is called Roll Call, and the theme is faculty and staff. So you can go see that at any point right now in the library, free admission. The times it's open are...
I think it's worth giving a look at, because not many people might go to that. It's definitely makes you feel more tied to the community. Sometimes you forget that these things are going on. Like I'll forget. Like I would love to submit artwork for like the student art show, but I always forget. So I think it's a good idea to go check it out.
Especially as faculty and staff, most of our art department faculty and staff are making art actively, but just students don't get to see it that much.
Yeah.
And then, so, we're going to turn it over to Switchblade Jesus Cano for This Week in Sports.
Amazing. Well, I'm not going to so much talk about what's going on within the paper because these games are outdated. This game, the LMC football game, happened about 2 weeks ago. Los Angeles College women's soccer started their conference play, so I'll dive into that real quick. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Robbie. So I'll dive in really quick to the LMC football team because they are the team that most recently played. They played last Saturday, had to head over to do the grueling drive over to Yuba College in Marysville, California, where they unfortunately lost. This is their second consecutive loss this season. They started off the season undefeated at 2-0. And the most interesting note that I did see from that game is that their backup quarterback, Nikita Jaggers, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, freshman quarterback out of Heritage High School, got to play in. Originally, when I saw the stat line, I thought it was because the starting quarterback, Tim Evans, just wasn't performing well. That's what I thought, because he's now thrown an interception in all 4 of his games, 3 in the first one, 2 in the second one. Then one when the loss against Cabrillo, and then another one in the game he got injured in. So that was the reason why he was out. He suffered an injury and was out the rest of the game. And Jaggers really settled in. Went 8 for 11, threw 142 yards, and got a really long touchdown to Trey Pierce. Luckily for LMC, they have time to evaluate this whole situation because they have a bye week coming up, meaning they don't play. They get their quarterback gets to rest, and they get to evaluate their new quarterback. Jaggers, to see what will go on. So that's going on within football. LMC women's soccer. That's the beat I am most familiar with because I am the beat writer for those of you that are not aware. The LMC women's soccer team started off their conference play. 10-0 victory against Mendocino College, and I think that is a huge momentum builder, especially considering the fact that coming into conference play, they've only won one game, right? In your eyes, as a person that doesn't view sports as much as LMC sports, what does that tell you about a team?
I think that's really encouraging to a team, especially after a record like that. I think LMC sports just in general has a lot of potential, but I feel like after a win like that, I think it's going to encourage like all sports.
Definitely, and then with only one win under the non-conference play, a lot of people would say that this team is struggling. But in reality, I think that they're the most battle-tested team heading into the conference play. Mm-hmm. You guys were here that one production night when I was going through all the other team schedules, and I saw that, damn, LMC has had the hardest schedule out of all of them. I'm talking about Delta College, Las Positas College, West Valley College. These are all teams that made the playoffs last year and are very good teams heading into this year. So, it's a simple equation. The harder you play during non-conference play, the more prepared you are for them. And not to knock off on any LMC sports, but the Bay Valley Conference for any sport isn't necessarily the top league to participate in, right? So I think in reality that you could technically say that conference play did start this Friday for the women's soccer team. I think that was more of a warm-up game, 10-0. That game was over before it even started. Mendocino College came in with just 10 players on the field. One of them went down with an injury early in the match. Essentially, Mendocino College drove 3 hours to get smacked by LMC. So it'll be really interesting because as we're recording on this podcast Monday, LMC is gearing up to go over and play Napa Valley College for what I think is their first real test in conference play. And it should definitely see how it pans out. I honestly think, calling it right now in front of YouTube, my witnesses, and anybody watching at home, the LMC women's soccer team is going to win the Napa Valley Conference. Called it right here.
Why do you think?
All the way?
Yes, because as I was explaining, I think they're going to win the Bay Valley Conference, but that's a whole different boat. But to answer your questions, like I explained earlier, the more you're prepared on during not preseason play, but non-conference play, to use the exact terminology, when you play teams that are 2 or 3 times better than your competition in the conference play, it's just going to prepare you more and more and more. So that's my idea behind it. They have so much potential. 4 of their players got a brace, which is 2 goals in their 10-0 victory over Mendocino College. Carissa Day now leads the team in goals with 4 goals apiece. She scored 2 braces this season so far. The defense overall. Zach Sullivan's a really good coach too. He's done amazing stuff over at the Diablo FC, the soccer club over in Concord. And I know he's going to be able to work his magic here at the LMC women's soccer team. He's worked wonders ever since his arrival here at the LMC.
What was that word you used? Battle tested?
Battle tested, yes.
Definitely.
Battle tested.
And what do you think about the football team season?
Football team season? It's still early for them. With soccer, they're playing 2 or 3 games during the week. Football, you only play once a week, and obviously because it's such a grueling, demanding sport, right? I think right now they just got to get their. Right now, they really have to do some soul searching during their bye week. They really have to do some soul searching because starting off the season 2-0, ranked, within not within the top 25, but they were a highly ranked team heading into their loss against Cabrillo. It's just all about finding their key. They're really struggling on special teams. They don't have a real kicker. They don't have a real kicker. Yeah, they're just using guys that have strong legs. They don't have a real, everyday kicker that transferred out of high school over here for that. So I think that's a huge disadvantage for them. This bye week's really essential, and I think it comes at such a perfect timing for them too. Just with the whole quarterback situation, and they're going to be able to figure things out during this time.
Overall, do you think it's going to be a good season? Or is it too early to tell?
It's not too early to tell because it's already four games in. I think it's going to be a solid season. I don't think it's going to be what was last season. I don't think it's going to be that where they went, all the way to the bowl game and stuff like that deep. Last season was arguably the best season in a very long time, at least in the tenure of head coach Chris Scheck, even as an assistant coach here. He told me that last year that they'd never seen the team start, 5-0, 6-0, whatever the situation was last season. So it's not rebuilding, but it's working with what you got right now.
What would you like to see them just improve on?
Improve on? Well, I would say special teams with the kicker situation, but that isn't something you can improve on when you don't have a natural kicker. But
just pull one up from the ground.
Yeah, their offense struggled against Cabrillo College, the game that we covered, and it is in the most recent edition of the paper. Their offense only put 100 and something yards worth of offense. So a little bit more offensive production, maybe. I can't really say much. I mean, that's going to be my last football season of the year that I'm covering due to under commitment. So I think Hugo will be able to, you know, tie some the torch, and we'll see what goes on there.
Tie up some ends, definitely.
Yeah.
And then, so as far as the next episode of the podcast goes, we actually have no paper issue this week. So, yeah, there's not going to be a paper issue this Friday, but we are still posting a full issue's worth of web exclusives on our website. That's lmcexperience.com, and you can read about those stories on that website. We'll also be posting about them on our Twitter and Instagram, which are both at LMC_experience. And speaking of which, starting next episode, we are going to be answering community questions. So if you have some for us, again, send that to LMC_experience on either Twitter or Instagram, and we will answer them to the best of our ability, me and whoever's here next week.
Yeah, definitely. You know, check out our content. You know, I like to use this platform that we have right now to the audience right now. You know, really support local journalism. At LMC, it's simple. Just pick up the newspaper, read some of the stories. That helps us a lot because we're here up until during production nights. Me and Hugh have been here up until 12 a.m., 12:30 a.m. So it's definitely a different type of environment here, and we really would appreciate if more people read the paper.
Awesome, and I think, yeah, he's right. We do put a lot of time and effort into it, so it'd be nice to see some sort of, you know, result, or, you know, some feedback at least. I think, yeah, we're definitely making the push for more online content, or at least I am. I know Robbie has as well.
This podcast is an example, yeah.
Yeah, this podcast, for example. So we're gonna, me personally, as photo editor, I'm gonna try to at least put like some more galleries, extra photos that don't make it to the cutting board, because we make, not just for me, but we get a lot of like good photos, good artwork from LMC that we just cannot put in one paper. So I think we're gonna, I'm more active on Twitter. I'm gonna be posting more. I have an Instagram, you can go check it out. But we're gonna definitely go to online, just neutral for LMC Experience. We're gonna be setting up a galleries page. We're gonna be putting this podcast on there pretty soon. The audio itself, so right, because we don't have to, so that way we don't have to put it on YouTube anymore.
We are actively working on just having an audio upload. Right now, it is just on YouTube, which is kind of why I decided to go to video. But yeah, we are actively working on getting our website to support audio files.
I think it's about time that we actually, you know, got up to date with all this. You know, we gotta put our foot in the door. You know, push more towards social media and all that stuff, right?
And until next week, I'm Robert Pierce.
I'm Anthony Martinez.
Switchblade Jesus Cano.
And this has been Back Talk. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.